Hi everyone. So today I specifically wanted to talk about the Black Lives Matters movement. And this also goes hand in hand with the George Floyd situation, and the riots and things like that. And I just feel like I have a perspective that I don't know if many people have thought about, or if they have, they haven't really talked about it. Well, I was just thinking, but I decided to write it out before making the video so that I made sure my thoughts were kind of cohesive. So basically I was thinking about the systematical oppression and when that started, and I was kind of thinking back, not necessarily the times of slavery, but I did keep that in mind. And when you think about slavery, you think about how blacks were just naturally hated due to their skin color, and because of that they were mistreated. So if you keep that in mind, that'll kind of give you an understanding of everything that I'm saying. But I was thinking more of like the modern times, maybe 1900s, 1800s, the whole gentrification of neighborhoods. And for those that don't know what gentrification is, according to Google, the first two definitions, the first one is the process of renovating and improving a house or district so that it conforms to middle class taste. And the other one is the process of making a person or activity more refined or polite. And when I mean by gentrification, I'm I'm just saying that a lot of, back in the day, there were various whites who displaced African Americans and, out of their neighborhoods, so they didn't really know where they were going to live. And with that being said, they were displaced in areas where there was a lack of resources. And, with the lack of resources, it basically could cause, havoc. If you don't have the things you need, you're going to kind of get annoyed. You're going to get freaked out, right? So the lack of resources caused havoc in the black community. For example, you may see there may be certain areas where it's heavily populated by African Americans, and they may be heavily involved in gang violence or drugs, and you see that that's a prevalent situation. Or, there may be murderers, or there may be psychologically abused or emotionally abused people, or there may be people with disabilities, and they had all this stuff, they grew up with that when they were younger. And this made, African Americans more likely to be a statistic. However, people are not thinking about how they have a lack of resources. So those people that you're calling a gangbanger or a thug or a drug addict, how can you get help? Those people that you see that's talking to themselves on the street, how can they get help? The homeless people on the streets that you see. So how dare anyone ever clown a black person who has been brought up having hard times, who have been struggling? How can you get help if you don't have the mental health resources? You don't have health care. You don't have healthy food options. You don't have you don't have people willing to hire you. You don't have places that you can work at. You don't have access to jobs. You don't have access to going to school. You don't have enough teachers. You don't have enough good teachers paying attention to you. You don't have, white people in general don't realize that they're actually the cause of that. There are people on this earth that do have those resources or can help build those resources, or who have the power to change how it is for those who are struggling. Yet it's not being done. There are some blacks that are able to break the cycle and establish themselves with middle class or high class status in the world, which is absolutely amazing. However, not everyone has the access to obtain that middle class and high class status. Whether it's, they don't have access to getting a degree, they don't have access to finding a job, or even getting a job. So this would explain why there is so much anger and so much pain in the Black community. They're not able to get their basic needs. And because of this cycle that whites have put Blacks in, this establishes the idea amongst the newer generation, and even the older generation still has this mindset that Blacks are trouble, and Blacks are ghetto, and Blacks are violent. And you know, if you combine the two, this creates the idea that no matter what a Black person does, they're probably doing something illegal, or they're probably in a gang, or they're probably a thug. And because of that idea, many police and even regular civilians are scared and intimidated by Blacks and are immediately ready to call the police, or the police are immediately ready to shoot because they're so scared of the idea that this Black person is trouble, even though they're just going out to get Skittles, and they're willing to kill them because they look scary, because of this idea that they have in their head that it can't get out. And I feel like due to them being so scared of Blacks, it just becomes a cycle of killing African Americans for no reason because they're scared. So as of today, as of yesterday, as of a million years ago, Black people were tired. You know, these are the reasons as to why there are riots, there are lootings happening, because, you know, we're placed in this predicament that was not our choice. We weren't asked to be killed. We weren't asked to be placed in low income environments. And it's it's sickening and backwards and confusing and sad and disappointing to have police and white people and non-Blacks put the blame on African Americans and say that it's Black people's fault for being killed. It's Black people's fault for not having a job. It's Black people's fault for the predicament that they're in. And people are rioting because they are upset and they didn't ask for any of this. Peaceful protests have happened in the past, definitely, and they were ignored, or they were still killed. So maybe us Blacks are here and rooting for those, or standing by those who choose to riot, or who choose to show their anger in that type of way, because it gets their voices heard. And not only does it get their voices heard, but it gets their voices heard in a way that peaceful protests would not. And yes, there are people that are rioting and looting for the wrong reasons. And I think not only are those people Black, a lot of those people are white or of other races, but I can only speak for my race. And I feel like it just is a lack of education as far as the reason as to why they don't know the real reason as to why they're looting or why they're rioting. And it may be, people may say it's counterproductive. It's counterproductive to loot or to riot against a Black-owned business. And I personally agree with that. However, if you do see other Black people doing that, I think we would have to think about the circumstances in the society that this person may live in. Kind of going back to what I said earlier. For example, you know, some Blacks are not able to have certain resources. And, you know, if they see a furniture store and they see a couch or a bed that they don't have, and they know that their mom is struggling to get money to pay for a bed or a couch, they're going to go and take advantage of this opportunity to go get that couch or to go get that bed for their mom, because they know and they see that their mom is working so hard to get that, and they're just doing what they can and they're taking advantage of the resources that they probably will never get again. And a lot of these people are going by what they see off TV. So they may be, you know, basing it off of only the information that they see on TV. So, you know, they don't have any other viable resources such as articles or access to the internet to read upon these topics. So, you know, they may not even know the real reason as to why people are rioting or looting. But I think they do know, what we all know, is that we're upset and that we're angry. But this is also a way for them to get those resources that I said that they probably will never get again. So to kind of finish it off, I don't want this to come off as me saying that all blacks are the same or all blacks fit into a certain stereotype, but I kind of wanted to use this as a way to why the riots are happening and what caused all of this to happen, what led down to the pain, what led down to the anger, what led down to the influx of anger and such. So I've kind of been pressing pause and go because I had to read my notes, but yeah. And I really hope that we're able to see all of this in a different perspective, because I know there are various people that like to play the blame game on African Americans and say that it's our fault for things, but they're really not thinking about how we got here and why we act the way we act or why we're so angry. And yeah, so like I said, this doesn't necessarily apply to every black person, and this doesn't necessarily apply to every white person or every police. However, I just feel like this is a perspective that I don't see many people thinking about. Yeah.